Hey, how you doing? So glad you could join me again today. I'm Carla Collins. This is Carla Collins Rocks the Elmo. It's rocks with an X because I have so many of them. I'm thrilled that you're with us. It's going to be a killer show. I always like to have a little philosophy, something uplifting at the top of the show. It's not so uplifting as it's going to be a rant today because for me, it was just the weekend. I don't know when you're listening or watching this, but I had several dudes try to phone me on Messenger, like a bunch of serial killers. You can't phone somebody on Messenger. And the other thing is I'm noticing through this pandemic and lockdown or shutdown, I get that we're all self-isolating, but I feel like a lot of you dudes are confusing Messenger with Tinder. Kind of like the way my dad used to confuse casinos with a day job. So I think that we all just want to feel safe somehow, and safe on Facebook. The only dude on Facebook I should be scared of is Zuckerberg. All right, so on a very special episode, it's like an afternoon special. On a special episode of Carla Collins Rocks the Elmo, I have the podfather himself, the godfather of podcasts, heritage, vintage, morning show man. He's an actor. He's a stand-up comedian, and mostly my unrequited love. One fishnet up for humble Howard Glassman. How are you, sweetheart?
Well, I got to tell you, the sexual tension is already
I know
quite a bit
Thank
to
God
take in.
Thank God I've got this chihuahua on my lap. Otherwise, I'd have such a lady boner.
Yeah. Well, I've got a chihuahua on my lap too, young lady. And his name is Bernie.
So
anyway.
So your penis also has a Jewish name?
My penis has a Jewish name, and it's Bernie. Okay, before we get going any further, first of all, thank you for having me on your program. B, I look up to you and adore you, as you know. C, in our years together, the ups and downs, I'm glad that we're in this stage of our relationship where we can just be comfortable with each other. And that's why I dry shampooed my hair.
And you are a handsome bastard. I should have put that in the t-shirt. I know, look, it's like a Jewish Laurel or Hardy. I can't remember whoever did this.
No, exactly. It's like Jewish Eraserhead.
It is. It's Jewish Mr. T. Yes?
You know, I think you and I have a lot of shared experiences. And I'm getting serious now, Carla. We've done morning shows together. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've done morning shows, not together, but we've done them.
No, I'm usually fired and then you take over for me, is how it's
and then I get fired.
And then I take over for you.
I've been so fired. But I just think it's interesting, like we're doing this stuff, now that you're doing a podcast, I'm very happy for you. I'm excited to see where it goes because, lots of people that aren't broadcasters are doing these little things.
Yeah.
And it's nice that a real broadcaster of your depth and compassion and empathy, I think it's going to be a terrific success. I thank you for letting me come on. I hope I don't wreck it.
No, you can't break it yet. You can't break it. I want to thank you because when I called you on one of our many infamous calls, because we do have some fun. Yes. Is that a siren? Because I'm so hot. I remember.
That's right. Yeah, this pod is on fire. Yes, go ahead, Carla. What about our many conversations?
Our many conversations. I said, listen, I'm thinking about doing this podcast, and you were hella encouraging, and you said, yeah, this is something for you, and you gave me some great tips, and I really appreciate that. And throughout the years, just for people like new to the Carla and Howard love affair,
exactly.
And we'll talk about this, of course. Humble and Fred, who have been together since 1989, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
Back in the day, we're going to go late 90s on this. In the 90s, they made quite a bit of fun. I was bullied radio-wise by Humble and Fred. It was a bit of a one-way rivalry, though, because I'm like, they seem okay. And I don't know what to do with this. And they're like, she's so perky. I remember Fred always wanted to taser me because I was also happy and full of life and hope back then. And now that I'm bitter, they love me.
Yeah, we hated that.
Yeah, you did hate that.
You know what it was? We hated the fact I don't want to get it. Like, listen, why belabor some negativity that it may have happened in the past.
Exactly.
What happened was we were jealous, and that's what people do when they're hurt and they're scared. And we were jealous of you and your success. Nothing bugged us more than somebody seeming to enjoy their life and making others happy.
Well, it is a pain in the ass, isn't
But
it?
it is.
And then we
But
we got together, though, somehow. How did we make our way to each
yes, we
other?
came together. I don't know. You know what? I had forgotten about all those terrible things that I said as a young junior morning man, and I was trying to make my mark. And I'd be honest with you, I look back at some of the stuff we did. It wasn't all that funny, but we were trying to be provocative, and you were somebody that was very successful. And of course, we took a shot at you because we're immature.
Can I just interrupt here and say, you have very much softened since those days. And I remember you were the Canadian Howard Stern. To me, he's my Canadian Goldblum because he's my other Jewish crush. I'm such a Jew wannabe. I want to be Jewish so badly.
You are. You're like, I love Jews. Jews are fun. Jews are funny. I love Jews. I'm Carla Collins. Welcome to Jews Rock the Elmo. Yes, I've softened.
But you have softened, but I don't know that everybody does soften. Some people actually get a little more bitter or hardened, but you have become muy enlightened. And again, with this show, it's got a pretty damn interesting story because you've been sober now 5 years, I believe.
5 years in 1 month, I guess.
Yeah.
A month and a couple of days, yeah.
So that's pretty extraordinary. And you've become very zen. You're about the meditation. You had a heart episode.
I do.
You had a lot of life-changing things. You went back out into the world after a long-term marriage, and so it was new, and you had to navigate all the dating apps, and it was so hard to send a dick pic on a rotary phone.
That's very good. This is I keep hitting 9 in my penis. Exactly. I put my penis in the hole and I turned it. Do you have a question in all of this? Because everything you're saying is true.
I want to know if there was a moment that began this shift.
Well, okay, I would say this. When we were the Humble and Fred show in the 90s, and I was trying to be a Howard Stern or whatever I was trying to be, and being provocative, and not always, really with a mind to what I was saying and what consequences it may have. I think a lot of people are like that. Like when you get older, if that ever happens, you'll understand this too. I think you asked me something about when did we come together, and I'll tell you when it was. We sort of had begun to reacquaint ourselves with one another, and then your mother passed away. And I remember calling you, and we had this long, heartfelt conversation, like a couple of people that had been through some stuff together, and I had lost both of my parents. And so I think that was not the moment, but that was part of a series of moments where I began to understand you and what a great person you were, and how us making fun of you was just nonsense. And I think, like a lot of people with me, you understood that I was a little older and I'd gone through some things and I had a bit of scar tissue, and that I did have another side of me. And I actually always had that side, but like a lot of young people, young men in particular, I was afraid to sort of show that side of my personality, thinking that wasn't a thing that men did.
Well, I got to tell you.
But I've always been that guy.
When someone is there, because it's always actions over flowery words, and when someone reaches out to you at one of those pivotal moments, because, as everybody knows, because I think she gets a mention, people should always play the mom drinking game, not you, of course, Howard, because you're sober, during these podcasts and web shows, because I'm always talking about my mom. But when something that life-defining happens and someone shows up like you did, and you had this great cocktail of both helpful advice and being very empathetic and sweet, and then you had the humor because you were calling your dead parents your zombie mom and dad, and that really helped because I had just spent weeks absolutely blubbering. So, and you also said how people are like, well, how old was your dad? Oh, 91. Oh, okay. Because my mom was a little on the young side.
No, exactly. Well, I had this whole thing I told you, and I've been doing this. I'd been doing this sort of bit off and on in my act about the things people say when people pass away. And there's a whole series of stuff. But one of my favorite jokes in the bit was I get to the final point. I say, you know, people always say, like, was he sick? And I go, well, he died. That was pretty sick, you know. But it's part of the, I think that happened. So my dad died when I was in my mid 40s. My mom died when I was in my early 30s. So I had this kind of period of my, so I had this period of my life where I could just feel, I don't know, some of that young bullshit bravado, whatever you want to call it, kind of melting away. And I can tell you that as time has gone on, I don't mind leaning on that softer side because it's more of who I really am.
I was going to ask.
Maybe who I've
is
always
the real
been.
Howard? Is the real Howard the guy who's got to get in the punchline and making the jokes? And because it's good, you can go for the jugular and who's scathing. Or is the real Howard this lovely marshmallow that I've grown to spoon and adore? Or is it a combo? Because also you had a lot of yang energy because you've got two brothers and your dad. Your mom passed away when you were younger. So it was basically just a giant pillar of testosterone as influencers.
I mean, to answer your, like, who was the real person? Again, I think make this too esoteric, but I think all of us have a duality. Mm-hmm. But as you age, I think, you know, the whole concept of zero, you know, F's given, I think you start to lose the ability, I think you start to, as you age, become more comfortable with the idea that not everyone's going to like you, that, you know, people aren't going to always be your cup of tea, and that it's okay. And I've even found, like, Carla, I have legendarily been like a rage driver, a rageaholic, a get mad. And then I've noticed the last 15 or so years, I just don't have the energy for that guy as much as I used to. But I would ask you the same question. Like, your exterior is this, you know, very fast, quite witty and very quick-witted. Like, a lot of people are witty, but not everyone's quick-witted. And you are, and yet, you know, with your comedic meditation and your softer side, I think that's also what attracts people, including myself, to your whole thing.
That and my titties.
Would there be anything? Now, is this whole show going to be us telling each other how much we love and want each other so badly?
Do you want it to be? No,
Maybe.
I have other questions. All right. I'm just letting it flow.
Listen, you know what? You're doing a great job. By the way, are you occasionally finger banging that dog in the bum?
Only occasionally. Listen, the dog's very special to me.
Sorry.
I'm this close to breastfeeding it. Okay, Howard. My other dog died. She's 14. Whatever we do is between us. We don't judge you.
That's right. No, I listen.
Well, I
regularly make out with my dog, so I've got nothing to say.
Oh, well, Stan's a big slut. We've all made out with your dog, Howard. Well, I was thinking,
why not?
It just occurred to me that you went with all that male energy and growing up, your upbringing, to your wife and two daughters. So you really also, speaking of duality, you had that balance too, because then it was straight to Lilith fair.
Yeah, it's weird because I have two older brothers, and between us, we have 6 daughters.
Wow.
And yeah, it's interesting. You know, like, I didn't grow up with sisters, but I didn't. So what I think a lot of men don't understand is what women are like. Certainly, period. But when they get to be in their teens, I had no idea. And when my daughters got to be teenagers, I got a real first-hand look at what girls are going through. And, you know, when boys are in their teenage years, they're just, you know, whacking off like monkeys 24/7. But girls,
sperm everywhere.
No. Like, I feel terrible. Like, my poor mother having to change the sheets and having to, you know, uncrumple them every night. But girls go through so many more changes, and I think that also was a kind of an eye-opener for me. I'll tell you this, not to, again, be too serious, but a real eye-opener for me, how I may have treated women inadvertently, not knowing the things that can be offensive, you know?
And then karma brought you 2 daughters. So I do want to talk about this because and you know, I know you're really open on your show. And by the way, I've told you this before, again, not to blow smoke up your ass, but it is what he paid for.
Do it. Do it.
And I charge extra for that. No, but honestly, you know, when often I've got insomnia, and a lot of times when I couldn't sleep in LA, I put on Humble and Fred. And you're really terrific at what you do. It's smooth, it's funny. You should be a phone sex operator. I've told you that. I can pimp you out to a lot of older, lonely ladies who would talk to you for hours. I have two questions I don't hear a lot. And if somebody's new to the magic that is Howard Glassman, the origin story. I'm big on origin stories, as you know. You and Fred, like, how did you meet? That just, because it seems like it's lasted longer than any one of our marriages. I include myself in that.
All of them put together.
All of them put together. You and Fred have been together since the late 80s, and I want to know how that came about. Like, was it an arranged marriage?
Well, I was a young Indian woman, as you know. And I was like that scene in Gandhi. Take the first step. And then Fred gave me a bag of magic beans.
Oh, it's just as I imagined it.
Well, you know, Carla, from being in this radio business, like a lot of radio marriages, I was working with another friend of ours, Jeff Lumby, a guy that you know. And we were asked to have a meeting with some guys from Toronto who had this radio station, Fred being the sportscaster on this show, and would Jeff and I both like to come to Toronto. Right. I don't know if I ever told you this part, but Jeff didn't. The meeting was one of those things where you could tell very early on that Jeff wasn't really interested. And I was. I'd only been back in radio at that point about a year. I'd been doing stand-up. I was living in LA. Right. I came back to Canada. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to be in radio, I want to be, you know, being the egomaniac I am, I wanted to be in the biggest market in the country. And here was an opportunity to do that at a time when a lot of guys I had competed against, Jesse Dillon, Jake Edwards, Marilyn Dennis, these were people, Steve Anthony, that I had competed against in other markets. And I thought, well, wait a second, if they're there, right, well, then I could be there too. And it was apparent, as I said, Jeff wasn't into the gig. And so in those days, they flew into Montreal, met with us, and they flew back to Toronto. And I left a message for one of them by the time they got back to Toronto saying, listen, if Jeff doesn't want the gig, I'd like to talk about me doing it. And that's kind of how it happened. I said yes. Jeff didn't want it. And they flew this Fred Patterson. Fred was already there. But Fred was doing the sports on several morning shows. It wasn't until I came along that he became, you know, the show being the co-host. So that's really, I mean, in a nutshell, that's what happened. Fred and I, but I will say the second part before you ask me the second question is that for 30 plus years, much like he has always amused me. Like I had a conversation with you the other day and I laughed. I realized after we hung up, I laughed so hard when we speak. Maybe not this interview, but other ones. But you know how certain people always make you smile? Well, Fred's like that. Fred was funny. Pardon me. He was funny from the first time we met. And he made me laugh this morning after doing shows for as long as we have. So that's kind of the secret to it all. Absolutely.
Well, so what kind of was love at first sight or chemistry at first sight or what have you? Because he did make you laugh out of the gate.
Yes. Well, and you know what that's like. I mean, people who aren't comics or funny. Yes. It's one of the things if you're not funny or you're not a comedian, you may not, I think you'll relate to this anyway, but for people like us, if somebody, you know right away if somebody's like got your sense of humor, like you just know it. And I knew it right away. We were joking about the same things. And in the early days of the show, we were so nervous. We would regularly be laughing so hard, we couldn't talk, mostly off the air. But it was very, very intense. And so even now we finish each other's thoughts. We have similar ideas. We have similar takes on stuff, but you know what it's like. Either somebody's funny or they're not. And you can sort of tell pretty quickly if they are. Really,
yeah, it's there, isn't it? It can't be forced. And I love that you're both also very different individuals. So I dig that. I dig that. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that Fred made you giggle the way I did. But makes sense now why you've stuck together. Because as you said, you can't fake that. You can fake epiphanies and orgasms and a bunch of other things. And I'm not being facetious. You cannot fake somebody making you laugh.
You know, you've met my current paramour. She came to one of your meditations.
I love her. I love Rachel. I suggested a three-way.
she's a
Now, I
good
understand
girl.
you just had an anniversary with Rachel.
I was going to say, so yesterday was our 3rd year anniversary. And I call our love affair the vortex. And I said to her, we're going to have a vortex. We're going to have the vortex year in review. And we did. And in the end, I was laughing so hard because even though she's not a professional, she is really funny. And I know from your experiences, I'm sure that you've been married and been in relationships with some very handsome fellows. But making somebody laugh is so sexy, you know? Like, she's so much smarter than me, but she can make. I will tell you what my favorite thing about our relationship, and it's kind of what you do to me too, is she makes fun of me in a way that doesn't make me feel threatened. Do you know what I mean?
And because it doesn't hurt you. Like, there's a fine art of teasing.
It doesn't hurt me.
Yeah, teasing is love, but there's that razor's edge where it can go right into being mean.
Yeah, and I'm sensitive. I'm a sensitive boy.
You are a sensitive
and she is
boy.
so good.
You're as sensitive
But
as a
she's
nipple.
so good. Oh my God. Just one little nippy.
Just one.
But that's
for
my
shits and
but
giggles.
that's my favorite. So that's my favorite thing about her and people that I'm attracted to is if you can kind of make me feel okay about you making fun of me, then I'm in. You know.
Right. I got it. So I don't hear you. I mean, I know on stage you do this bit about, hey, let me show you how to quit smoking. And you take somebody's pack of cigarettes, you put them both up your nose.
Oh yeah.
And then you give them back.
Yeah,
You
it's
shuffle
classic.
them up in the cigarette pack, and say, there you go. You just quit smoking. And one time I had to follow you, and I said, well, you see where I put the cigarettes. So I didn't know how to follow that. But you've licked 2 addictions. And that is what you can imagine during this time. People are grappling, they're wrestling with their demons and addictions, like, booze sales, that's where you put your money. So I want to know, because you have that infamous picture on your Facebook profile of you lying over the bed, passed out drunk, and you post it every year when it's your anniversary of being sober. I want to know, and so I'm sure a lot of people listening, how did you do it, and what happened that made you realize I had to make some changes, yo?
It was a series of things. After my marriage ended, I was in a long-term relationship, about 5 or 6 years, with a slightly younger woman.
Oh,
and
yes.
a lot of what we, like, I always drank a lot, but as I got older, I didn't realize I was drinking more and more and more. And then this relationship I was in, she liked to drink, and I drank more and more and more. And when that relationship ended, I do this joke about, I said, when the relationship ended, I went on an 18-month alcohol-fueled Tinder fuck rampage. Can I say that?
Oh yeah. Well, you just did.
Okay. And it's true. And about a year before I met Rachel, I'd stopped all dating. I was just fed up with being
Tweety birds were off your
sick
list.
and you know what? I just was fed up with being drunk all the time. I was 30 pounds heavier than I am now. And I got to the fall of 2015 and I thought, if I don't do something, because I'm really very obsessive when it comes to anything, including bad habits, good habits and bad habits.
You're an
Like
extremist.
when I started yoga, right. So I went from never having done yoga to going all the time, right? And then joining a studio, blah, blah, blah. So I knew in my head that if I didn't do something, I was either going to lean into this alcoholism like full time. I started drinking earlier and earlier in the day. Like, I was functional for sure. I didn't miss a show, but I was always kind of hungover. I got to about December of 2015. I thought, okay, I don't want to tell anybody because I felt ashamed that I'd gotten to this point. Like a lot of alcoholics, I felt a sense of like a bit of humiliation, shame, shadowy, whatever. And I thought, I know what I could do. I could just tell people I was on a cleanse. So that's what I did. I said, I'm going to try a 100-day cleanse. No, I didn't eat. I stopped eating meat. I wanted to lose some weight. Under the guise of doing that, I also stopped drinking. And it was kind of weird because 100 days went by and then that turned into 6 months. I thought, I wonder if I could do this for a year. And then a year went by and I just kind of fell out of the habit. And along the way, I faced some harsh facts about myself that I had some issues and some problems, and
What, such
I got a
as?
little bit of help. Just, like I was covering up a lot of my insecurity with drinking, like a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like the weird thing is, and I know you can relate to this, like I like being around people on my own terms. Like I was joking today on the show with somebody. I said, the pandemic has been great because, no one's supposed to fraternize with other people. I'm like, that's perfect for
You're built
me.
for this
Because I don't have to
pandemic.
make, exactly. I don't have to make excuses why I don't want to come into your house for a dinner party.
You picked me up once for a
But
gig,
that's,
and the couple I was staying with invited you in, and I thought you were going to strangle me. You were just
do
like,
you
I
remember?
swear to God, this ever happens again, and I'm cutting a bitch.
Do, do you remember how horrified I was to meet strange people?
You
I
were
was like,
super
I don't want
horrified to meet
what?
anyone.
And then make small talk around an hors d'oeuvre table. I don't have that skill. I go from zero to offensive so quickly in those situations. But that's what it was. I was covering up a lot of that behavior with drinking, and I'll tell you, there are some moments. There's a lot of raw moments. Not so much anymore. I've gotten used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, early on, I just didn't know how to act socially because I could be gregarious and whatever. But
Especially
what
after
would
a couple
happen is
drinks. It's
yes.
a good lubricant.
So without that, I just felt uncomfortable in my own skin for a while. Listen, a lot of people who drank have the same story. I can tell you though, like physiologically, it made a difference in me. And I also think back to your original point about softening as we age. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think it helped with that too. Like, I'm okay with myself now, not drunk. I can be around people drinking, doesn't bother me. I do this joke about how do people always ask me, how did you know you had a drinking problem? I said, well, when you have a glass of wine, sometimes you're thinking, I wonder what would go nicely with this, And I said, one day I decided that what would go nicely with the wine was vodka. And that's how I knew.
This would pair well
I
with
did.
absinthe.
That's right. That's
And
right.
a
I went, this
fistful of
isn't
cat
strong enough.
tranquilizers.
That's right.
Delicious.
I need to kick this bitch up a bit.
So what do you,
I knew I had a problem.
What do you think would be if you had to think of one single factor? What got you the most comfortable with yourself? When the alcohol was gone, the bravado was gone, the cigarettes are gone.
I think the single biggest factor is, and it just sort of happened over time, is I realized somewhere in year 2 or 3 that not being drunk all the time did something to my self-image. I felt better. I'll be honest with you. I just felt better about myself. And I think that kind of, I don't have a single moment, but I think that really I sort of had a realization one day, and I was like, well, I was easy. You know what it is? I have this phrase where I always tell people, like, I like to mark people softly, but I didn't always mark myself softly.
Wow.
And I think I came to that realization that I started to be a little easier on myself.
A little more gentle.
Because I didn't. Yeah, because I wasn't. Listen, when you're drinking as much as I was,
Mm-hmm.
you're covering up something, and I wasn't very kind to myself all the time, and so I think that was it. I started noticing that I was a little easier on myself.
Yeah, because they say stopping is just the start of it, right? Because then, you got to look at the first problem that begat the second one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. Another thing people ask, I didn't go to the program. Although
I didn't ask
have
that.
people. No, that's fine. But I have friends that are, friends of the. There's a phrase, "Friends of John" is the guy. It's an Alcoholics Anonymous phrase. But I know some people in the program. I've been to some meetings. I've been there supporting other people, and I think that's great if that's what you need. But like, I knew I needed to quit. And as you said, quitting was sort of easy for me because I'm, again, very obsessive. And when I decided I wasn't going to drink anymore, I made that decision. And I don't think about it as much as I used to. But I definitely feel overall a sense of a better feeling of well-being. I know that's very clunky, but that's how I feel.
Well, sure, you're not full of poison anymore. I mean, that kind of makes sense.
Oh, no, I get I get the poison out quite regularly.
That's right. It's full of something else now. Any regrets? Hot tub time
about
machine
drinking
time?
or not?
No, just about anything.
Oh. Well, that's a great question. I don't regret any of the things that have happened to me or things that I've made happen, i.e. getting divorced and, blowing up my life a couple times. I think like a lot of people who have gotten to my age, I was going to say our age, but I'm like so much older than you.
So much.
I think I wish I had known some of this stuff when I was in my 30s. I really do. I wish I would have known earlier on that it was going to be okay, that I was going to be okay, that not everything was life or death, and that, generally things have worked out. But I was very driven for a long time. I'm still, excited to do stuff, but I'm not driven the same way I was.
Like not that Macbethian vaulting ambition.
Yeah, I'm ambitious, but I'm also judicious now with how I spend my energy. I'm not as mad at people as I used to be because I'm not as mad at myself as I used to be. It's as simple as that.
That it is. And sometimes it really is simple, right? I think we overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
But that's it. Now, I think I know what you said, Rachel and Fred, and obviously myself. I know what your chuckle is. I think I know what makes you laugh because you're a goof.
Yeah.
And we get into silly,
totally
ridiculous. Doing entire 45-minute conversations. Let me tell you something, doll, if you want to make it in this business.
Yeah, the other day I think I yelled, "Show me your titty" for about 10 minutes.
You did.
Just randomly.
And I cried laughing. Just like you're like, why don't we have a Zoom date next time instead of just a phone call, and then maybe you show me a little titty. And we just had this beautiful, this is what I love, this beautiful philosophical conversations, like maybe a little nipple will make an appearance. Won't hurt.
That's
no
right.
one,
Listen, during your comedic meditation, do you ever take out a tit and just squirt it at people facetiously?
Like holy water?
Go ahead, Anna.
Like holy water.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Namaste on Touch My Titty.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So I do know your chuckle, or some of them.
Yeah.
And so for your chill, man. I'm gonna wager a guess because I know that you've been into meditation, and I know when I first came up with the comedic meditation, you're like, I picture you as Bikram, but less sleazy, I hope, and I'm not wearing a diaper and fondling younger people. Or am I? Either way, but would golf be your chill? Because it's pretty moving meditation, right? And you've been winning championships that I keep reading about. You are a hardcore, you're pro adjacent on the golf course.
Thank you. There's a real, I would tell you that nothing I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but I can tell you that nothing in my life is as zen to me. I know this is going to sound absolutely ridiculous, so I'm going to say it anyway. Nothing is as zen to me as the pursuit of golf from a mental standpoint, because it's such a metaphor for everything else, because it has stress, it has self, flagellation, it has, you're constantly at war with your mental, how do I look? How am I appearing to others? It's rife with that. It has very little to do with the physical activity. I mean, physically, I'm pretty good at it. But there's a perfect example. Why I've gotten better at it as I've gotten older is I'm no longer, throwing clubs into lakes. I mean, you have no idea. I literally have taken a golf club in my car and opened the door on the highway and tortured it because it didn't perform for me that day. That's how ridiculous I've been. So golf is by the way, that's an interesting phrase, a moving meditation. Mm-hmm. Golf's all about controlling your breathing and controlling the state. We call it state management in golf because there's a great, I do this golf podcast, and one of the things, it's all about the mental side of the game. And so I've been lucky to interview some of the brightest brains that do awareness training.
Right.
There's a doctor named Ellen Langer who said to me, breathing is important for any activity, but golf especially, because when you breathe, you connect with your body, and your body is always in the present tense. Because our mind can go back and forth, future and past.
Right.
But if you're in your body, you're always where you are. And you know this from meditation, that part of the trick of meditation is, your brain and your mind wanders and the monkey mind. It's the breathing that brings you back to where you are. And I love that about golf. And I love that about what I've learned through becoming a better player. Again, it has little to do with the physicality. The same way that yoga isn't about how good you are at the poses.
Well, I like to be as flexible as my morals, but yes, you're not supposed to compete with anyone else.
Listen, man, Well, listen, the first time, I'm such a cynical prick. The first time the teacher went, it's yoga practice, not yoga perfect, I was like, oh, please kill yourself.
Right? I
But
know, because it's like, I'm
I
holding
get it.
space for you. What the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah, exactly. I get it. But, in my more, less judgy comedic mind, it's true. Like be where you're at is all that there is to the practice. And it's what makes me better at golf now, is because I'm no longer worried about what happened or what's going to happen. I'm able to bring myself to this moment in time, not all the time, just more of the time.
Right. And when
You know
you
what I mean?
can is when I'm sure you have your best games. Because it sounds like, I always make this joke,
Right.
it's like the perfect three-way. I know you think it's you, me, and your girlfriend, but what it really is, it's that mind, body, soul, right? There are very few activities that get all three firing, I think. And where we can bring our place where all three are firing. So, and also it's also
great.
very white. Otherwise, I'd take it up, but I can't. I already had brunch in Lululemon, sipping mimosas, and Gwyneth Paltrow was behind me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the fucking whitest moment of my life. So I can't go into golf
hilarious.
now. I can't do golf because I've got a chihuahua on my lap. I cannot get any more white.
Hey, can we talk more about the mind-body three-way? Can we talk about that?
Is the mind-body three-way still on the table? You're such an idiot.
Are we going to get into downward facing something?
Have you tried naked yoga? Because the downward facing dog turns into the upturned starfish in a hurry. Listen, this is your big closer. No. Do you want to end on this? I always give the guest the last word, the mic drop. I know that you love that.
I don't want this to be over.
I know.
I don't want this to be over.
Well, we can do a part deux.
No, I'll tell you right now. When you first told me, and this will be my last thought, when you first told me that you were going to do this comedic meditation, we were talking on the phone, so you couldn't see my face. I just thought it was the shit. I just thought of all the people I knew that could bring those things together and not make it hokey, cheesy, or something that I would be. Because I remember the moment you told me, I thought, wow, talk about a person finding their place. Again, not to be too hokey, but to me, that is the perfect thing for you. There's very few people that are funnier, sweeter, smarter, kinder that can do that and also make it fun for people. And I just congratulate you on that. Okay. All right.
Wow.
All right.
See, first few guests, I made them cry, but the Glassman has got me welled up. Thank you. That was
Glassman.
He's a Glassman. Thank you. I appreciate that. And okay.
Thank you.
See, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at a compliment. More titty. Here he's coming in. All right, Humble and Fred. Found where your internet is everywhere. Thank you so much. I got to tell you, you combine the two. You combine the two beautifully in this time together. So will you come back?
No, you.
No, you do.
I want to stay here with you.
I know, I want you to too. I'm Howard's emotional support cougar. He can take me on a plane. All right, thanks so much.
Absolutely,
Love you.
I'd wear you like a scarf.
Okay, that got creepy.
I've never said that before in my fucking life.
What? Once again, thank you so much, my Canadian Jeff Goldblum, Humble Howard Glassman. A legend. The man is a legend. And it's wild, to hear the whole history and where we're at now, but a lot of sexual chemistry, a lot of sexual tension between us, which is often the case with people who start out as rivals. But we're never going to do anything about it. We're never going to bone. I don't know why I just said the word bone, but there you have it. We're going to be like Bruce Willis and that chick from Moonlighting, Sybil Shepherd. I didn't watch the show. Anyway, right now the millennials are like, what the, and who? So guess what? We are doing some of Carla Collins Rocks the Elmo from the Funny Farm because we'd be locked down and gives me a chance to connect with you guys and also bring on gay fiance Michael Stewart Webb, who's also the producer of this show. So we've been asking you guys over the past few days to send in any questions you have, everything you were afraid to ask it now, fire away from Twitter at Carla_Collins, at Carla Collins Comedian on Instagram, and Facebook, there's a couple of pages, it's my name. So we have selected some questions. Gay fiance is going to surprise me with some of them, and we'll read out your names, and then we're going to have a fabulous, glamorous prize for one of you that we'll read on the next show to keep you watching. Yes, I'm drinking port. I'm 105. So, Michael, our first question, please.
Well, our first question comes from M. Barrett, and she's actually asked a couple of really good questions.
Okay.
The first being, and of course we all want to know the answer to this question, would you ever consider living in rural Canada full-time instead of LA?
Well, I don't need to tell you, Michael, that I was supposed to leave in October. I don't know when you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this podcast, but it's a good 4 or 5 months since then. Yeah, I would, I'm quite a gypsy. So I've lived in France and the US and obviously a few places in Canada. So including Wallaceburg, the lacrosse champion of the world. Yeah, that's right. It's like a TED Talk, isn't it? So you never know. Fiance and I have a lot of stuff on the go. So it might happen, Em. I might live in rural Canada if I could pronounce rural while I'm drinking. And yes, maybe is my solid answer.
Fantastic.
All right. Next question.
So Emily also poses another interesting question, and that would be, if you could be on any TV show or movie, which would that be and why?
Ooh, I like it. Em asks great questions. Okay, well, off the top of my head, I would love to be on Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David, obviously one of the masters, Seinfeld creators, because the show is largely improvised. They just say, okay, you're going to play a cheerleader who's a whore, again, just off the top of my head, and lives in Burbank. Go. And obviously all the great ones have appeared on that show, and it is just as funny now. In fact, the last season was hysterical. So I would love to be on that. I'm a big fan of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, too. And oddly enough, my older gentleman lover, Craig Stepp, made a guest star appearance on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so I would do that one. Dead to Me, I would love to join Christina Applegate and that Italian chick, because we like that show.
Funny show.
Great show. That's on, that's, I believe, on Netflix as well. They have a third season coming up. Also, Canadian shows, Working Moms. I mean, come on, I may be the only Canadian actress who hasn't appeared on that show. I could play anything. I would love to be on Working Moms. And as far as movies, this is, by the way, I'm answering very, very honestly here. I would legit like to be part of the Marvel universe, but not as, the Hulk's mom or anything. Like, I want to be the superhero. And here's why. I'm age appropriate to all like Paul Rudd and Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo. So I would like to be my own superhero. Thank you very much. I could be White Cougar. Again, also, like I'm such a nerd that I legit about once every 6 weeks do this to see if anything will come out like Spider-Man. Just, that would have been the coolest moment in podcast history if Webb had come out just now. Also, I could be Aqua Woman because I'm a great swimmer. Dolphins love me. I have hair like Jason Momoa. They need an Aqua Woman. And look, they're bringing back Michael Keaton as Batman, and no one even batted an eye. So I'd like to be a superhero because of a great origin story, and I'm now also an orphan. So it's pretty much, obviously, Samuel L. Jackson's going to knock on the door. And I hope he can find me here on the Funny Farm because I'm ready. I'll be an Avenger. You need some new people. Some people died in the last one, so there's some openings. Okay, this is going well.
Moving right along.
Yes.
Kevin Parnell asks a question about one of my favorite Carla Collins shows.
Yes.
And so his question is, how pruned up did you get while you did the Carla Comes Clean episode?
That, you almost made it quite X-rated there.
I'm getting
That's
tongue-tied.
almost after dark. What did you call me, fiance? That's how you can tell that we're engaged. First of all, you all also know that that's a joke, right? Yeah, so Carla Collins Comes Clean. If you've subscribed to the channel, you can see them on YouTube. Love doing it. And no, I didn't prune up because that's my natural habitat. See, last question where I'm Aqua Woman. I would spend the whole day in the bathtub if I could. And we're going to come up with another season, speaking of things that Michael and I are doing together. So look forward to seeing more or less of me, however you want to say. We'll be doing more Carla Collins Comes Clean. And no, I think we're using Dawn dishwashing detergent too. You know, the one that they scrub the wildlife with when they're covered in oil.
I actually think there was a Carla Comes Clean episodes with a couple of Dawn bottles on the side of the bath, if I'm not mistaken.
That's how we kept the bubbles covering my bits, my lady bits.
Kevin is also asking if you are now officially a crazy cat lady or if you're still in training.
Well, Kevin, I was already officially crazy. The cat part, yeah, I'm a crazy kitten lady. Yeah, you don't just become a crazy cat lady overnight. I mean, I'm just starting to dabble, so still in training. I'm your intern. All right, next question.
Next question comes from Cynthia Schutza. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is actually a question about you and I. And so she's asking, how did you set yourself up with gay fiancé? Because it seems like the perfect sitch.
It really is the perfect sitch.
For both of us.
Aw. Well, so we kind of met online, but not on Plenty of Fish or in one of those. Also thought Plenty of Fish was a lesbian site. When I was doing Facebook Lives for the first shutdown, Michael Stewart Webb was watching, and we had met once or twice in like the wild years ago, but then we developed a friendship on FB, and we started having Zoom cocktails, and I'm now living with him. So, you know, you just know when it's right. Things move quickly, and it is, one of the best relationships I've ever had. And this is the reason we're...
I shall drink.
Cheers. You know, it's going so well because sex doesn't get in the way, right? Like, unlike Howard, there's no sexual tension, but I'm basically him with fake titties. I think we're the same person, and now we're producing all this great stuff together, and books and TV shows and dog food, and I think it's like Fran Drescher and her gay husband. Well, I don't think she knew he was gay at first, but that's why they did so many good things together, because they weren't spending their time in the boudoir. They were just able to ball out together and produce shows. So, but actually, I guess the real answer would be, I think my mom brought us together, truth be told. I think my mom was looking out for me, and she put us together, right? I have said that in the past. So Cindy, I think it was my mom. Cindy may remember my mom. I think Cindy and I went to high school. That's a good 10 years ago, huh, Cindy? Dog years.
Trey Slaughter is asking, what was it like voicing Blaney on Total Drama?
Oh, I loved voicing Blaney. Total Drama is like legit hardcore fans. It's crazy that cartoon has such an insane, beyond cult following. So Blaney was not one of the contestants. She was the host of the show, and she was also a bitch. So funny story, when I went, I don't know if they asked for me at the audition, but, I had done a couple of other cartoon voices, like I'm Erica Ram on Cyber Chase, and she's I'm Erica Ram. And I did some voices like this, so I go in there and I start doing voices, and they said, no, Carla, she's a total bitch. Just do your own voice. True story. But I loved it. Sometimes she rapped. I think it was like, Blaney. I'm Bubba Blaney. And she had total attitude. I wish I was her.
That's awesome. Rainey Singleton is asking, this is a good one. What's your recipe for beauty, genetics aside?
Oh, well, that's an embarrassing question to ask. Oh, Rainey, just stuff. I wake up like this. Well, okay, a couple things. We actually, going back to Gay Fiancé and I, are putting out a book called Stairs, 30 steps, a 30-day step-by-step program to being a fab as fuck. We may just say AF because, bookstores and Amazon. Where I'm going to tell you a bunch of things. Well, I don't know exactly how to answer this, but I can give you what I think. I think a lot of it does start from the inside out. Like, I take a lot of supplements and vitamins. Always check with your doctor, obviously, but I'm a big believer in food as medicine and eating properly and using supplements. Like through this whole like coronavirus, I will look down many times. That's Chatty, not the birds, at the toilet and think, oh my God, did somebody explode a highlighter? Why can my pee light up an entire street in Vegas? So I think that's a big part of it. I also do something called skin brushing, which again sounds like something Ethan Hawke might have done in Gattaca. But, and that's just, you take a dry brush and you always move towards your heart. So it's supposed to be good for exfoliating and keeping your skin nice and smooth and non-cellulite. And yet, well, I'm vegan now. And I will tell you, like, I'm not going to do any preaching, but honestly, do yourself a favor. There are two big culprits to looking your best or feeling your best, and that really is dairy and sugar. And I'm lucky that I don't have a sweet tooth. I could sit in that corner with a salt lick for 3 hours. But so yeah, sugar is, it's an ager, and dairy is really, really brutal for you. And believe me, I left it kicking and screaming because cheese is delicious. But so I think those are some things. And I don't know, my mom always told me, I think also confidence, even if you're faking it. One thing that my mom taught me is she said, you know, we all look at ourselves in the mirror and we're basically like this. Right? And in fact, we make that noise. Like you're just brushing your teeth or you're popping a zit or getting some out of your eye. And so we don't see ourselves animated and smiling or in our element, right? Like who hasn't fallen in love with a drummer and they could look like birth control because they're in their element. So I feel like that's a big part of it too, right? Just your attitude. I actually do affirmations about beauty. That's right. All will be revealed in the book. So is that enough of those are a couple of hints, right? Is there anything else?
Oh, I think they're fantastic.
Botox for your third eye and for also your forehead. Let's be honest.
And you mentioned our book.
Yes, a book. You know, one of your animals always tries to upstage me.
I know, it's true.
That's Chatty. That's the only full-size cat that's roaming around right now, and she's in heat. Yeah. I don't know what that means. Cats scare me enough. I don't know what they do when they're in heat. I just imagine they hot wire cars and knock over liquor stores. What do they do?
It's best you don't know.
It is best I don't know. Next question for me. I think we have time for a few more.
Yes. So next question comes from your friend and mine, the one and only Glenda Fordham.
Hi, Glenda.
And so Glenda is asking, of all of the celebs, you may not want to answer this, of all of the celebs you've interviewed, who was the most fun and played along, and who was a complete, and I quote, fuckwit?
Oh, awesome. I thought fuckwit sounds British, is it?
Well, Glenda's Australian. But...
Okay. Same. She has a cool accent. Glenda Fordham, PR. I'm celebrity questions. I'm always like, I guess. Honestly, most played along. I will be on, especially like if here's the rule of thumb, and I think a lot of people who have interviewed and celebs will also agree with me. The higher they are on the food chain, like if you're talking about superstars, Bono, Paul McCartney, giant Whitney Houston, Will Ferrell, they're phenomenal because they don't have anything to prove and they're living the mofo in life, right? But if you get stars that are maybe has-beens or not quite there, they're like middle management. So they all of a sudden they're like, I need a bunch of midgets to carry me in. I'm like, we don't use the word midget anymore. Hashtag mini Me Too movement. So I'd have to say, Catherine Chancellor from the Y&R, Jeannie Cooper, God rest her soul, hilarious. She and Jess Walton, who plays Jill, we did the Sick Kids telethon together, and I was wearing, me, I like to wear outfits that have less material than Dane Cook's act. And so the whole time, God bless, and who knows how old she was swearing like a soldier backstage. And during the telethon, she's like, please give so we can buy Carla the rest of her dress. So I loved that because I didn't expect it. And Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, we had an entire conversation about who the better stooge was. I, of course, was lobbying for the thinking woman stooge Shemp, and he was making his case for Curly, which is kind of fun. Jeff Foxworthy, I know he's you might be a redneck, but he's a genius. He's wonderful. And he often he'd love to play. So sometimes he would just interview me and we'd go along and he's like, well, you've just adopted those two. And I'm like, orphans? Yes, I have. We would just play it. He would just go with anything. Because you might think that comedians are great at riffing and playing. Not always. That was a very white woman thing. They're not. And the only fuckwit that comes to mind right now, Joan Collins had a bit of attitude. What? And Hugh Grant was a dick.
What?
Hugh Grant was a dick. Yeah, I know. And so I told on him because he was still with Liz Hurley at the time. And I was like, yeah, your dude was a bit of a dick. But I still like Hugh Grant. And, I don't do a lot of tell all because who knows what kind of day they were having. Who knows what butt munch reporter he had to deal with before me. I'd hate someone to judge me on just one snapshot, like this show. So I think that answers that.
I think it does,
Yeah.
yes. Lisa Hauser-LaFlamme is asking a great question from
All
one
right.
animal lover to another.
Yes.
So Lisa's saying she knows how much you love animals, and if you could be reincarnated and come back as any animal, what would that be and why?
Are there female centaurs where I have my upper body and then I'm a horse? And then someone's always riding me. That's a horrible joke. Gosh. Maybe I used to joke that I wanted to come back as one of Oprah Winfrey's dogs, but I would also want to come back as one of Michael Stewart Webb's dogs. They have a pretty great life too. But, I'm going to go with a bird. I'd like to be a bird because I'd like to fly, right, and soar and take a shit on people I don't like.
Well, that's kind of cool. Any particular type of bird? Like a bird of prey or a chickadee or...
Hey, chickadee. Who really soars? Right now I'm just like, don't say pigeon, don't say pigeon. Why are you saying pigeon? You could be any bird.
Like an eagle or...
An eagle, but I like my hair too much. I don't want to be a bald eagle. Too
They're
American.
they're not actually bald, but... Not like a vulture.
Yeah, vultures are cool though.
They are cool birds.
No, I want to be a hawk.
All right.
Oh, that's so, oh yeah, I'm a baller as a hawk, obviously, in the black swimming.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, I guess we have time for a couple more.
I think we do. And so Leslie White is asking if you could, no, this is an interesting one. If you could travel through time, what era would you visit first?
Ooh, these are great questions.
They're great
I love you
questions.
guys. These are awesome questions. This is an easy one for me. I'd want to be in the 30s or 40s as a femme fatale. Like I want to roll with Mae West. I feel like I was born too late. Almost anything from flappers to 40s where I'm just wearing big shoulder pads and I've got a cool hat on. So and I'm just smoking, right? There's just a lot of smoke in here. And I'm like, hello, doll, you look swell. Listen here. Look at you. Look at your little Weisenheimer. Look at the pins on you. Horse feathers. And I just talk like this, like the Daily News. We should probably go to the next question because I could do this for hours.
Yeah, I think we should move
You're the
on.
cat's pajamas.
Oh, my God.
He's embarrassed.
Not at all. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Louise Lees Larank is asking who your woman crush is, and she's suggesting that you might know who this is.
I thought Louise was saying I was hers, but that's all right.
Is she?
I don't know.
I'm trying to read your handwriting.
Note, she said something about me. Louise, I've had many, I always have women crushes going on. But instead of like rattling off, like I've called some of my friends in the past, we were sister wives, sister trophy wives. I've always had girl crushes going on, but I'll give you two stories. One is, boy, there's like a theme. The woman who plays Ashley, Eileen Davidson, Ashley on the YNR, because she's going to be in her late 60s. And by the way, she's still absolutely smoking hot. So a couple of years ago, we were at the same restaurant in Malibu, and my brother was horrified because I get drunk very easily. I don't know if you could tell. And I had 2 glasses of champagne. I was just like, Ashley, no, I hope I said Eileen. I'm like, you're beautiful. You are so beautiful. And she was with her her husband, and they seemed frightened. But so she was a girl crush, and my most latest one I think is Biff Naked, because Biff will be on an upcoming Carla Collins Rocks the Elmo a couple weeks from now, and I had never had the opportunity to interview her before. And I was interviewing her, and she was on this large screen, because obviously we're doing a lot of things via remote at the Elmo. And I, honest to God, didn't hear what she was saying sometimes, because I was lost in her eyes, or her beautiful, luscious lips, or her teeth that you could safely show a movie on. And she's just so cool and funny and awesome. And yeah, so okay. Well, now I basically started writing her poetry. So let's go with Biff Naked.
Good answer. She was mesmerizing.
She is. You all, like men, women, small farm animals. Be careful, chatties and heat. That doesn't make any sense. Maybe just one more, because I feel I should. By the way, thank you for all your questions. We're gonna put everyone's name in a hat or something. Or, I don't
cat
know.
litter pan.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was trying to think of an animal, like a doggy bag, a cat litter pan, a horse pail. And if we didn't get to your question, we'll probably get to it. We're going to do this once a month, against your will. Against Kate Gothi's will. So one more question.
Okay, so this final question comes, I love this name. Debbie Spadafore Keogh.
Oh, cool.
So
Hyphenated.
Debbie is asking, or saying, the first thing she ever saw you in was the importance of being earnest at GCVI. And she has followed your career ever since. And she's asking if you remember that show.
First of all, you've been following my career ever since. I'm so sorry. But thank you. I absolutely remember that show. I played Gwendolyn Fairfax. I think I was 16. It would be one of the first major plays I ever got to do, and my first introduction to Oscar Wilde. And Mr. Johnson, our theater arts teacher, I didn't even audition for it. I was new to the school and didn't get a shot, and he actually asked me to come. I got right to callbacks. The other waitresses. I'm a little, well, you know what happens, guys? People listen to this are just like, what is going on? I'm doing liquid meth. No. The other actresses must have hated that, but I got the role. By the way, Glenn Peloso, who you've seen on HGTV, was Ernest. I know.
What?
Yes, we have famous people who came from Guelph Collegiate. So, yep. And we're Facebook friends, and we have met up since. And yeah, it was a wonderful experience, to learn about comedy of manners. And I actually ended up doing that play again in university. And of course, anything that introduces you to Oscar Wilde. I'm going to try to see, well, I should have prepared, but, and not had drinks. But I think one of the great quotes was, I always travel with my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train. That was from The Importance of Being Earnest. I remember my rival was Cecily, and I was like, and she's quite cute, and I said, to be honest, Cecily, I wish you were quite plain and fully 42. Oh, to be fully 42. Like that was me trash talking her. And I'm trying to think of a good Oscar Wilde quote to end this. So thank you so much for watching our show. If you're watching on YouTube or listening, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a comment, because that helps. And I always end with a quote, so I think I should go to Oscar Wilde now. Let's see, what would be a really good, appropriate one? Maybe a couple. Well, he said, be yourself because everybody else is already taken. That was always great. Forgive your enemies because nothing will drive them crazy, or something to that effect. And something to that effect. Why did I just break into a French-Canadian accent? And finally, this might be my favorite Oscar Wilde, a quote for our current times. We are all in the gutter, but some of us are facing the stars, are looking at the stars. So I think I'll give Wilde the last words here. And thanks for joining us. Thanks for your questions. And we'll see you next time on Carla Collins Rocks the Elmo. Hey, I'm back again. Did you miss me? So many encores. This podcast has more false endings than Freebird. I got so wrapped up in answering questions about myself and drinking that I wanted to once again thank my guest, humble Howard Glassman. That was an extraordinary chat. We're like a dance. We're like dance partners. There was some serious and deep thoughts, and then titties, and then some laughter. And it just occurred to me, at least I found it a real comfort when this whole pandemic hit, whether I was in Los Angeles or now here in Canada. Listening to Humble and Fred in the morning was really comforting. They're such a legacy morning show, and they've been with us for a long time. And it's, to me, it was just really reassuring to hear those familiar voices and a couple of masters who are so great at what they do. So wanted to thank Humble Howard. I love you. And yes, more sexual tension than Rizzoli and Isles. I don't say that lightly. So I just wanted to come back on and thank my guest. Like a host and not an animal. Thank God Dr. Zero reminded me. And I made it through this entire closer without stumbling or speaking in any kind of accent. I bet you wish I was speaking with a French-Canadian accent. Hey, moi la, je suis Carla. I'll tell you something right here, right now. I'll give your husband the best blowy of his life. I don't even care. Right here at the dépanneur. I don't give a shit. Okay, well, we should stop this. You stop. Love you, Howard. Have a good one, guys. I'm wearing a crop top. It's weird.